So today I had the opportunity to meet up at the folks from Panasonic South Africa, and they allowed me to mount the new 10 to 25 millimeter f1.7 lens on my camera. And this at this time was the only sample of this lens in South Africa. So I would just like to thank the guys at Panasonic for this opportunity. And obviously, as a result, I am going to share some photo and video samples with you guys. I will link all the photos that I show in this video. I would link in the description where you can download the raw files if you want to do some pixel peeping yourself. I haven't got the firmware on my GH5, so I don't think the autofocus is going to work that well. I did forget to upgrade the firmware, so that basically means that GH5 doesn't know what this lens is. It doesn't have the depth of defocus, parameters and variables, so it can't actually do autofocus properly. That's basically what it means. I just want to mention that I use the focusing technique provided by Casey from Camera Conspiracies, where you basically leave the camera in manual focus mode but simply tap the screen where you want to focus, in essence triggering autofocus for a very short time until focus is achieved. Then the focus will stay locked at that point. But I can still take video, I can still take pictures, I still know exactly what it is. At the moment it's on 10 millimeters. So I'm on a obviously gorilla pod at the moment, so it's not fully extended, but this is sort of the field of view that you get, and yeah, it's definitely very, very workable. And it's on, I don't know if it's on 1.7 right now, but it's on 180 degrees auto aperture. So this is pretty much what you're going to get. Oh, and did I mention we had a racetrack? That's where the expo is. So yeah, this is the footage. I'm going to take some photos now, see what the quality is like, and I'll definitely be uploading some raws. First off, I would just like to mention that the chromatic aberration on this lens is really well managed. I tried to find high contrast scenarios that would usually cause some chromatic aberration to occur, but I really had to push the envelope in order to get this lens to actually show chromatic aberration. I only found one spot with a bright light that shone directly into the lens that would actually cause chromatic aberration. But this is not really the kind of shot that you would take and publish anyway. But because this lens handles chromatic aberration so well in the first place, it makes it a lot easier to fix with Photoshop. By simply adding some purple in the chromatic aberration filter, it is basically completely removed. That being said, this is an extreme scenario, and you would most likely not encounter these issues unless you shoot directly into the sun, which would prove very difficult to handle for pretty much any lens anyway. So I don't really consider chromatic aberration to be a problem on this lens at all, and I would say that it is really well managed. Next off is vignetting. Like pretty much any lens, there would always be some vignetting. The issue is usually how extreme the vignetting is and how the vignetting rolls off into the corners. This lens has a very smooth roll off into the corners and does not hug the corners as much as some other lenses I've owned before. And it was very easy to fix in post using the value 30 for midpoint in Photoshop or Lightroom. It looks like this was the sweet spot for both 10 to 25 millimeters. At 10 millimeters though, the vignetting was a bit stronger compared to 25, but still very easy to fix in Photoshop. The next thing I want to talk about is stabilization. This lens does not have stabilization, so I would recommend using it on a camera body that has built-in stabilization. But most of the Micro Four Thirds cameras nowadays have built-in stabilization anyway, so this isn't really a problem for most camera bodies. And because the lens is on the bigger and heavier side, I found that it does actually help to stabilize your shots. I was able to get fairly smooth handheld video movements using this lens on my GH5. And if you add some slow motion and post video stabilization, the result is very smooth video movements without the need of a gimbal. Next in line is corner sharpness. And this is where this lens surprised me quite a bit. At 10mm, there was only a very slight softness in the corners when it was fully open at f1.7, but at a very acceptable level. Unfortunately, my f-stop tests at 10mm was too rushed, so I wasn't able to complete a full aperture range sharpness test. But I did manage to create a full step-up test at 25mm, and the results are really good, with basically no change in sharpness from f1.7 to f5 in the corners. Now let's compare this lens, the Leica, to the famous Sigma 18-35 with a speed booster. The size of the Leica is very comparable to the Sigma 18-35. It feels basically the same in your hands when attached to a camera. And remember that you need to include the speed booster as part of the Sigma size, with the Sigma being thinner and the Leica being shorter. And if you consider the price of the speed booster plus the Sigma lens, then you basically end up at about the same price point as the Leica. This obviously depends on if you already own a speed booster or not. The Leica offers a 3mm wider view and 5mm longer focal length compared to the Sigma, which is a total of 8mm more focal range, which equates to 16mm more range in full frame terms compared to the Sigma. When it comes to autofocus performance, there is only really one option, the Leica. The speed booster's focus accuracy is very questionable with unreliable results. And with my personal Sigma and speed booster setup, I've always had a slightly out of focus area on the left of my picture, which I'm still not able to rectify. And it cannot be used with continuous autofocus. It's way too noisy and consistently hunts. With the Leica being a lot faster, quieter, with less hunting, and 100% precision. So the bottom line is, when it comes to autofocus, native always wins. The only single thing that the Sigma 18-35 offers above the Leica is the faster aperture, coming in at f1.2 after the speed booster conversion, offering half an f-stop advantage. But this is only true if you use the 0.64 speed booster. If you use the 0.71 speed booster, you only gain about 0.4 of an f-stop advantage over the Leica. So this is my quick review and pixel peeping of the new Leica 10-25mm lens. And in my opinion, it's definitely an option to consider. It outperformed the Sigma in most ways, and it would replace a lot of prime lenses in your bag, also enabling you to switch less lenses, saving time and missing less opportunities. And if you are in South Africa, it might only be officially available after November 2019, according to Panasonic South Africa. And if you like this video, then please remember to press the button. And if you want to see more, then remember to subscribe. Until next time, ciao.